Ground control to Major Tom.
Space Oddity is one of those anomalies. Why was it a success? I think even to this day people throw their hands up and say, we're not quite sure.
Take your protein pills and put your helmet on.
I think Space Oddity worked really because it was different. It was David's first step really into the space strangeness.
I think the track gives the listener a feeling of space, of actually being out there. The lovely chords, the intro chord which goes from an E minor to an F with the major seventh on the bass, in other words an F chord with the open E string of the guitar ringing through, sets the track up perfectly.
Interestingly, with Space Oddity, Bowie's producer, Tony Visconti, wanted nothing whatsoever to do with the song because he thought it was a bit of a cheap cash-in on the recent Apollo moon landings. So in stepped Gus Dudgeon, Elton John's producer, who gave Bowie his first hit.
Musically, what are the things you remember? Definitely the stylophone, which was played by David Bowie. The stylophone was a toy instrument, like a tiny keyboard that you played with a little rod with a cable on it. That was just a basic synthesizer, a cheesy little instrument. The mellotron, very important, played by Rick Wakeman. Terry Cox was the drummer. The bass player was the great session bass player Herbie Flowers, who played some wonderful lines. Interesting was the guitar performance, which was played by one Mick Wayne. So many people think that because the Space Oddity album was featured a credit to Mick Ronson, that it was him. In actual fact, it's very in the style of Mick Ronson, but it was played by Mick Wayne.
It was very dour. It was talking about a tragedy in space, which of course was to happen. Nearly happened not that long after it came out, and it caused a controversy because it was banned for a while because it was too much like life. It had that opening that's very haunting and very singular, which reminds me always of the 1950s film Forbidden Planet, not in terms of what they're talking about lyrically, but in the music. Very electronic, very haunting, very daunting.
I think as a drummer it was good for me because there was a lot of learning curves through that period. The songs weren't all like, say, Hendrix or Zeppelin or Sabbath, where you could have one sort of approach as a drummer, and you knew that would sort of work, and you just found in the beat, because it was piano and strings and lighter songs, heavier songs.
Bowie really understood the importance of presentation, and by coming together and working with Mick Rock, they really pioneered the art of the promotional video. Although the single was released in 1969, the promotional film wasn't actually shot till 1972, but with the technology that was available, it's a really great achievement.
The acoustic guitar plays a very big part, and there's one part where it breaks down to just it's a kind of bit of relief, a bit of nice light reliefs after all the kind of the bombardment of David Bowie's sort of dreamy vocal and very strange lyrics.
Well, Space Oddity remains, I think, to Joe Public the favourite Bowie song. It was a big hit. It was written at a crucial time, at the height of the space race. And more importantly, I think David, like a lot of us, was deeply affected by the movie 2001 A Space Odyssey, from which he took the title Space Oddity. And in fact, the lyric is a story that actually draws the listener in. I think when you listen to that track, you don't realise how much you're being drawn in and become sympathetic to the plight of the spaceman.
This does not have a happy ending. And again, towards the end, when it opens up the acoustic guitar and the orchestration on the keyboard, it's beautifully balanced and beautifully put together. And of course now, and we're talking 35 years on, it still stands up as an all-time great piece of music. It doesn't sound at all dated. How do you improve upon it?
Hunky Dory wasn't actually the start of Bowie's career, but it was certainly when he arrived in the big time.
Although The Man Who Sold the World established Bowie as a credible artist, as a performer, whereas everything before was a little bit odd, eccentric and almost gimmicky, Hunky Dory was the album that most Bowie fans would now look back at and say, well, that was when we really started to identify with what he was doing. And that's when the chameleon aspect started to come through, because it did have such a diversity, and it was all locked together by Bowie's own personality and force of talent.
His first really significant album was The Man Who Sold the World, which had been released about 8 or 9 months before Hunky Dory, but Hunky Dory is undoubtedly Bowie's most important album. Changes is an absolutely perfect opener for the album. It's like a signpost for everything Bowie was going to do over the next few years and become the musical chameleon that he did.
Still don't know what I was waiting for. Time was running wild. A million dead-end streets. Every time I thought I got it made, it seemed the taste was not so sweet.
I think it's a fantastic opener. It's a great track, great piece of work. Very exciting, you know, very innovative.
How the others must see the faker. I'm much too fast to take that test. Changes. They wanna have to be heard to man. Changes. Just wanted to be a better man. Time may change me. I can't trace time.
Played it through on the keyboards, and he said, well, you know, everybody in sort of from the beginning, so the bass comes in with the keyboards as he's changing his chords, and he's just doing that. And then we go into the riff.
I watch the ripples change the size, but never leave the stream of warmth.
I can't think of anything better to sort of signal the way forward and let you know what was to come.
But still the days seem the same, just the same, quite the same. And these children,
A lot of musicians were kind of like very indignant, you know, kind of this sort of upstart type of guy that's sort of kind of wearing weird makeup. They would sort of say that they didn't like it because it was sort of kind of musically it wasn't that sophisticated, but you know, you hear it once and that's enough. You know that this is a major artist.
Bowie's all too often dismissed really as someone who doesn't have a great deal of the craft of music making, and I think that's very unfair. And if you're taking a song like Changes, it's a good example of just how on top of the technical aspects of making music that Bowie actually was. The whole song is basically in 4/4, but suddenly we have these 3 bars of a waltz time. It goes